Welcome to CSC Movie Recaps. Today I will review the 2017 Korean crime drama Midnight Runners. The movie revolves around two new students at the Korean National Police University named Park Ki-joon and Kong. In the first scene they are dropped off at the university by their respective mom and dad. Park is quite close to his mother and she suggests that he can always come back home if he doesn't like his studies. Meanwhile, a more uptight Kong is less affectionate with his father. After parting away with their parents, the candidates have their hair cut short and prepared to undergo a 2-week military-style training. It is set to filter out the candidates that are not fit for the 4-year program at the university. On the first day the candidates report to the field and undergo intense physical exercise. Later in the day they are served a calculated amount of food. It is not enough for Park's appetite, so he asks for more. However, his request is quickly declined, making him angry as he complains about the unfair treatment. He sits down with Kong. The latter observes everything and he lets Park eat his leftover sausage. Over the course of the next few days the students undergo more physically intense training. Many of them manage to pass it, but some of them who can't cope drop out of the program. The movie then cuts to the final round of the program, in which the candidates must climb to ascend a mountain in an hour. While running, Kong trips and sprains his ankle. He asks other candidates for help, but no one stops to give him a hand. Even Park declines as he doesn't want to fail the test. However, Kong reminds him about the leftover sausage he gave him and refuses to let him go. He also offers to treat Park to a nice and expensive Korean beef steak, which finally convinces Park, so he carries his friend on his back to the finish line. Later, when the commander learns that Park jeopardizes his admission into the university to help Kong, she passes them both in the test. She also reprimands the other candidates for not helping Kong, saying they should be ashamed of themselves. After the two protagonists finally get acquainted with one another, it's revealed that Kong is from a wealthy family and that he only joined the police university to do something different in life. All his rich friends have gone to Ivy League schools, but Kong believes that it's boring. Meanwhile, Park decided to join the police force because he was raised by a poor single mother. Following this, the movie fast-forward 2 years. Park and Kong have grown accustomed to their life at the university, and during one class they learn about abduction. Most kidnappers target female adults, and children below the age of 13. Time is the most important factor in abduction cases. A missing person survival rate falls as time passes. For most cases the critical hours fall within 7 hours after the abduction, as by that time 70% of the victims are killed. Later, as Park and Kong are discussing their Christmas holiday plans, the class nerd Jae-ho teases them with a picture of his beautiful girlfriend who he picked up at a club. This makes the two single men jealous and they ask him the club's name. However, Jae-ho refuses, saying they should find their own girlfriends. Park takes offense to the reply, so later during karate class he puts the nerd in a chokehold, and finally makes him talk. In the next scene the two are granted permission for a night out and go to the said location. It's a popular high-end nightclub where artists and beautiful girls are everywhere. Park and Kong try to chat with the girls but are hugely unsuccessful. This is because girls in Korea think that police officers are unexciting and poor. The realization hits the boys hard, and they start to regret their line of work. To brighten up their mood they go to an internet cafe and play video games. Later, on their way back to the academy, Park and Kong noticed a beautiful girl and started following her. However, they soon argued over who gets to pursue her. As they fight, a group of men knock the girl out and kidnap her. After a while, the two eventually realize the gravity of the situation, but by the time they can react the kidnappers manage to escape. Alarmed, Park calls the police to report the incident, and they also run to the nearby police station to file a report. Unfortunately, they are told that all of the personnel from the missing persons unit have already been assigned to separate cases. Realizing that it will be too late by the time the police start to look for the girl, Park and Kong decide to start their own investigation. First they go to the crime scene and find a plastic bag that the girl was carrying. Inside they find a Korean delicacy called tteokbokki that she had bought from the amount of tteokbokki. Kong surmises that the girl probably had other members in her family. The two take this information as a lead and start looking for the shop that sold tteokbokki. Their hard work pays off, as after a few hours they find the seller. The seller reveals that the girl used to buy Topkapi at around midnight, when returning home from her job nearby. The two men then head to the girl's workplace, which turns out to be a shady parlor that offers erotic services on the side. These parlors are frequently raided by the police. Park waits outside as a lookout, while Kong goes inside to find more information about the missing girl. He books an appointment and asks the masseurs about the girl. Right then, two police officers approach the parlor, so Park springs into action and engages them by swearing. He then runs away, drawing the cops towards him. Meanwhile, Kong learns that the missing girl is in Yeongjung. It turns out that she is from another city, and she ran away from home some years ago. Because of her abusive father, currently she lives with her runaway friends nearby. After acquiring her address, Kong rejoins Park and they head to her home. There, a man answers the door, and when Park asks him about Yeongjung, he panics and tries to run away through the window. However, Kong runs after him and eventually captures him. After a good beatdown, the man reveals that he sold Yeongjung to a gangster named Gung Ho, who usually hangs out at a nearby restaurant. It becomes clear that the kidnappers targeted Yeongjung because she's a runaway and no one would report her missing if she were kidnapped. The scene then cuts to where the kidnappers have held Yeongjung. After a while, Gung Ho enters herself and injects her with a drug right above her uterus. Next, Park and Kong take a taxi to the restaurant located in Chinatown, which is notorious for gang activities there. They confront Gung Ho and this leads to a full-blown fight. Park and Kong are seriously outnumbered, but using their police combat moves, they somehow emerge victorious. They then hold Gung Ho down and ask him about the kidnapped girl. The gang member is a bit hesitant at first, but after a good beatdown he finally concedes and takes them to the dilapidated building where he has kept Yeongjung. There they also find other women, much to their style punishment. It turns out Gung Ho is running an illegal egg harvesting business. He kidnaps women and injects them with menopur, a black market drug that increases the production of eggs. Park and Kong eventually find Yeongjung and notice that she has a high fever. They attempt to carry her to the hospital first and then return for the other girls. However, before they can take her to the hospital, they are confronted by Gung Ho's boss. The man, along with his henchmen, easily overpowered the two police rookies and held them hostage. Following this, they are stripped naked and suspended in the air in a dark room. However, when the gangsters leave them unattended, Park and Kong manage to break free and escape, leaving their wallets, ID and phone behind. They headed straight to the police station and explained their ordeal. But the police officer doesn't believe them and refuses to file a report. That infuriates Park and he gets into an argument with the officer. One thing leads to another and the two end up getting tasered and arrested. The following day, a professor from their university, Mr. Yang, comes to pick them up at the police station. Station Park immediately explained the situation, leaving him shocked. Mr. Yang reveals that he too exposed a similar racket back in 2007. He further explains that a woman normally produces 1 egg each month, but the drug enables them to produce up to 20 eggs a month. The brokers then sell these eggs to infertile couples in clinics. In the next scene, the two take Yang to the abandoned building, but by then the kidnappers have already moved the girls. Park and Kong opened an investigation into the matter, but the professor tells them that it will be 2 weeks before anything happens because the police are already inundated with other important cases. Refusing to give up on the girls, the two men then expressed their intention to investigate the matter independently. Kong remembers the number plate of the kidnapper's car, so he asks Yang to use his authority to run the number plate in the system. The professor obliges, but his efforts are futile as the vehicle turns out to be unregistered. Yang tells them that he sent a request to the appropriate unit to manually check the CCTV footage of the location. However, this will probably take them a month. Hearing this, the two become patient and ask for the case to be handled immediately, but the professor refuses. Instead, he orders them to focus on their studies and even threatens to expel them if they continue to pursue the case. However, after returning to the academy parking lot, Kong called one of their teachers and asked her to check the CCTV footage of the location from last night. The latter agrees to help, but she mentions that it will take her at least a few days to check the footage. Park and Kong utilize this time to train and prepare for a possible violent showdown with the gangsters. The teacher eventually goes through the footage and notices the car twice at an intersection. Disturbingly, a similar car with a logo of a fertility clinic is seen tailing the kidnapper's car in both instances. Seeing this, Park and Kong realized that the kidnappers were selling the harvested eggs to the same clinic. So without wasting any time, they head to the clinic. Their hunch turns out to be true and they catch the kidnappers red-handed. A fight breaks out, and just like before, and the two men are outnumbered. However, this time, they are better prepared. Using their impeccable fighting skills, they successfully neutralize the goons. Afterwards, they make their way to the operation theater where the evil boss of the entire gang confronts them. He initially dominates the fight, but soon Kong and Park turn the tables and defeat him. Following this, they break into the operation room and save Youngjung and the other girls. Several days later, the senior professor and officials discuss Park and Kong's future at the university. The room is divided. One side believes they should be expelled for breaking the rules, while the other thinks they should be rewarded for saving the girls' lives. Despite the risks, Professor Young comes out in their support, saying that they set the right example by putting the lives of civilians before anything else. Ultimately, Park and Kong are pardoned with the light punishment, and the movie ends with Youngjung visiting them to express her gratitude.